you know the song Tear on Tape? It's featured on SFC's third album, Phase 3. If you don't, then you should go listen because not only is it a 90s classic, but it's also a mini history lesson in Christian hip-hop. In the last verse, Soup The Chemist takes time to shout out several contributors to CHH. I appreciate the fact that he used his platform to shed light on the genre, and it also gives the listener the opportunity to discover some new music. This album was released in 1992, so I will highlight these artists and albums that would have come out during that time. Disclaimer, there are 4 artists that I'm going to have to put an asterisk by, and those are the MVPs, System 3, XL, and The Crucified. From what I could find, The Crucified was a Christian metal band from that era. I'm not positive that this is who Soup was referring to, and I don't know anything about Christian rock, so I'm not really going to touch on that. I found little to no information about XL, the MVPs, or System 3, but if you know anything about these groups and or individuals, please let me know in the comments. I also want to point out that while I am familiar with most of these artists and albums, I haven't listened to all of them all the way through, so I can't necessarily make any judgments or recommendations. I'm still very much learning and exploring, and I'm just inviting you to come along on the journey. So now, here's every CHH artist on Terror on Tape. First off is PID, aka Preachers in Disguise or just Preachers. Their personnel changed quite a bit over the years, but between 1991 and 1992, they consisted of Barry Hogan / Barry G, Kevin Lynch / K-Mac the Knife, Fred Lynch, and Jay Johnson / King Solomon J. During the time of Terror on Tape, PID would have just released The Chosen Ones in 1991 and Born with the Gift in 1992. Dynamic Twins, as the title suggests, consist of real-life twin brothers, Noel and Robbie Arthurton. They made their earliest appearances on the JC and the Boys compilation in 1989, but they released their debut album, Word to the Wise, in 1991. Freedom of Soul consists of DJ Cartoon and Peace 586, and they released their debut album, Caught in the Land of Time, in 1991. Idle King consists of Byron Scott / Lord Byron, Cedric Scott / CO, and Derek Drew / DJ Cut No Slack. They released their debut album in 1991, despite the title being Explosion 2000. DC Talk is the most commercially known group on this list, consisting of Kevin Max, Michael Tate, and Toby Mac. Now, most purists, or anyone else for that matter, would probably agree that DC Talk was not a hip-hop group, although they did use elements of rap and continued to get recognized for it in certain audiences. There was a time when Soup himself was very vocal about this issue. I don't know what was said, but he eventually apologized to Toby Mac for his harsh critiques. I assume that the shout out on Terror on Tape was an olive branch. DC Talk released their album New Thing in 1990 and Free at Last in 1992. Alliance of Light. Consisting of Chili Baby and Mr. Solo, this group never released a project of their own, although they were featured on the song Kill the Spirit on the Phase 3 album, the Family Song by Dynamic Twins on the No Room to Breathe album, and they were featured performing a snippet of an unreleased song on the Adventures of SFC documentary. A few years later, Chili Baby, Mr. Solo, TikTok, and DJ Dove would become the Gospel Gangsters and release their debut album in 1994. Transformation Crusade. Soup shouts out Transformation Crew, which I assume is an abbreviation for Transformation Crusade, consisting of Chris Williamson, Daryl Fitzgerald, and a few other unnamed members. Transformation Crusade released their third and final album, God's Making It Happen, in 1991, and they were also featured on Commission's song King of Glory. DLC, short for Disciples of Christ, consisted of Alton Hood, Kelvin Harvey, and Michael Brown. They released their debut album How You Livin' in 1991. JC and the Boys. Now here's where things get a little fuzzy, as there seem to be 2 different iterations of JC and the Boys. The first album, Never Give Up, released in 1989, included Chris Cooper / Super C, aka Soup The Chemist, Tony Lee / Poetic Lee, Dynamic Twins, Renee Vasquez / MC Peace or Peace 586. I'm not sure who all is featured on the second album, Chill for a While, but the producer David Guzman seems to be the common denominator. JC Crew. JC Crew is Dave Kirby, Kenny Dingler, and Maximilian. Oh, and in case you didn't know, the JC in JC Crew and JC and the Boys stands for Jesus Christ. They released their one and only album, Serious Business, in 1992. ETW, short for End Time Warriors was made up of Mike Hill / MC Free, Johnny Williams / Johnny Jam, and Elroy Forbes / MC L King. They released their sophomore album Stop the Wild Hype in 1991. Finally, Apocalypse. This duo is made up of Jamerson Smith and Kirk Miller. They released their only 2 albums, Holiness or Hell and The Final Plea, in 1991 and 1992 respectively. How many of these artists or albums do you remember? Do you think anyone is missing from this list? Most of these have or will be celebrating 35 years. So whether you remember seeing these CDs or cassettes in stores, or if all of this is new to you, I encourage you to go back and experience the pioneer era of Christian hip-hop. If you haven't already, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.